The desert moon of Vorn was silent. Orange dust rolled over the sharp black rocks as the wind howled in the distance. A lone human ran across the valley, his boots kicking up trails behind him. His name was Leo. His body was tired and covered in dirt, but his mind stayed sharp. He had been running for 2 days. He was the last survivor of Outpost Redline, a small rebel base destroyed by the Kroll Empire. The others were gone. Leo had no weapons left, no ship, and very little hope. He moved quickly, trying to stay ahead of the bounty hunter. He knew was close. Her name was Raka. She was not like other hunters. She was faster, smarter, and had never failed to catch her target. Her armor was dark green with sharp lines and glowing symbols. Her face was hidden behind a smooth silver mask. She had tracked Leo for days without speaking a word. She only watched and waited. Leo reached a tall ridge and climbed to the top. He paused to catch his breath. From there, he could see the wreckage of a small ship far in the distance. Maybe he could reach it. Maybe he could call for help. But as he stood, something moved behind him. Too late, he turned. A heavy net shot out and wrapped around him. He fell hard to the ground. The air rushed out of his lungs as he struggled. The net pulled tight and locked. A shadow fell over him. Raka stood above, silent as stone. She looked down at him without a word. Her mask tilted slightly, watching him with interest. Leo coughed and tried to sit up. "So you finally caught me," he said, breathing hard. Raka gave no reply. She pressed a button on her wrist and the net lifted Leo off the ground. He hung in the air, arms locked to his sides. She turned and walked to her ship. The net floated behind her, carrying Leo like a prisoner from ancient times. The ship was small and sharp, built for speed. Not comfort inside, the walls were cold metal. Raka placed him in a holding cell, sealed by a clear force field. She stood outside the cell, arms crossed. Leo looked at her through the field. "Do you ever talk? Or are you one of those quiet types?" he asked. Still no answer. Raka tapped on a control panel and the ship rose from the ground. It flew up into the sky and left the moon behind. Inside the cell, Leo sat down. He stretched his legs and looked around. The room was empty except for a light above his head and a small bench. He leaned back and closed his eyes. "I guess I should thank you," he said. "Now I won't have to starve out there." Raka glanced at him but said nothing. The ship moved through space in silence. Leo opened his eyes and stared at the ceiling. "You're Kroll." "Right. That means you think humans are weak and dangerous, but you don't seem afraid." Raka turned her head slightly but didn't speak. Leo smiled. "That's fine. I don't mind the quiet." He sat up and rested his arms on his knees. "I just wonder what you really think. You must have seen a lot of us by now. Not all humans are the same. Some fight, some run, some just want to live." Raka walked away from the cell. She sat in the pilot chair and looked at the stars. Her hand hovered over the controls. But her mind was somewhere else. Leo kept talking. "I had a brother once. He was louder than me. Never stopped talking. You would have hated him. He died when the Kroll attacked our base, burned it to the ground. That's when I started running for a moment." Raka's fingers tightened on the control stick. She looked down at the screen showing Leo's life signs, heart rate normal, voice steady. No signs of panic. She pressed a button and opened a file on human behavior. It showed details of fear, resistance, surrender. She studied it while Leo talked in the background later. The ship entered deep space and autopilot took control. Raka stood again and walked back to the cell. She watched Leo sleep. Sitting with his head against the wall, his chest rose and fell slowly. His body was thin but strong. There was something strange about him. He didn't beg. He didn't cry. He didn't even try to escape. Once inside the ship, Raka had hunted many before. They all screamed or fought or made deals, but Leo just talked and listened and waited. She turned away and walked to her quarters inside. She sat at a small desk and removed her helmet. Her face was hidden from the world, but no longer from herself. She looked in the mirror and saw her own eyes looking back, cold, focused, but uncertain. She didn't understand why this human was different. Why? His words stayed in her mind. She reached for a small data cube and placed it in the reader. A soft voice began to speak. Human Culture, Chapter 3, Emotions and Loyalty. She listened as it described human connections, how some prisoners grew close to their captors, how trust could form in strange places. She leaned back and closed her eyes. For the first time in years, she didn't feel certain about her mission. In the next room, Leo opened his eyes. He looked at the ceiling again and whispered to himself. Everybody breaks. Even aliens. He smiled slightly and closed his eyes again. Sleep came slowly, but it came. The stars. Outside, the ship moved across the black sky, and the journey to the Kroll homeworld continued. But something inside both of them had already changed. The ship moved quietly through deep space. Inside the cell, Leo leaned against the wall, staring through the clear barrier that kept him trapped. It had been 3 days since the bounty hunter Raka captured him. She had spoken only a few words during that time, mostly commands like eat or sleep, spoken in a calm and firm voice. Leo had stopped trying to talk to her, but his eyes never stopped watching. Raka sat at the control panel. Focused on the glowing screen in front of her, she didn't show emotion. Her movements were sharp and precise. Her armor reflected the lights of the ship. Leo tilted his head and spoke again. "You ever wonder why humans talk so much?" he asked. "We talk because silence makes us feel alone." Still no answer from Raka. She adjusted the course slightly, then locked the ship on autopilot. Suddenly, the ship shook hard. Warning lights flashed red across the panels. An alarm sounded. Raka stood and ran to the side console. "Meteor storm detected," she said. She pressed several buttons to activate the shield, but the screen showed damage to the outer panels. One of the engines had been hit. The ship dropped sharply, pulling both of them with it. Leo grabbed the wall to steady himself. Raka's feet held firm due to magnetic boots, but the ship kept shaking. "System. Failure in propulsion," she said. "We are going down." Leo's cell door opened automatically as part of the emergency system. The field vanished. He stumbled out, coughing from the smoke. He looked at her, then at the sparks flying from the wall. "We need to fix that engine," he said. Raka raised her blaster and aimed it at him. "Return to your cell." Leo pointed to the screen. "If we crash, we both die." "Let me help." Raka stared at him for a moment longer, then lowered the weapon. "Follow me." They rushed through the narrow corridor to the back of the ship. The engine room was hot and filled with smoke. One panel had melted and the cooling. Tubes were leaking. Gas. Raka began working without speaking. Leo stepped beside her and used a wrench to seal a leaking pipe. He moved quickly and with care. Raka noticed how steady his hands were. Not bad for someone trained on Earth. She said. Leo smiled a little. "We learn fast when death is close." Together they stopped the leaks and restarted the emergency power. The shaking slowed. The ship stopped spinning, but the navigation system was still offline. "We have no choice," Raka said. "We must land on the nearest planet." She entered the coordinates manually. The ship moved forward slowly, entering the orbit of a green and white moon. It was not on the official charts. No settlements, no cities, just mountains and jungle. The landing was rough. The ship slid across a grassy field and stopped near a rocky slope. Smoke rose from the back, inside the cockpit. Both of them sat quietly. Leo looked over at her. "You all right?" "Yes." "You still breathing?" Raka stood and checked the monitors. The ship's communication systems were down. Backup power would last for 2 days. "Repair will take time," she said. Leo looked at the green jungle outside the window. Plenty of plants out there. "Hope nothing eats us." Raka didn't smile, but her eyes rested on him for a moment longer than usual. She handed him a small device. This will alert me if you run. Leo took it and clipped it to his belt. Not planning to run? Not yet anyway. Raka opened the door and stepped outside. Leo followed. Air was fresh and the ground was soft. Tall trees swayed in the wind, and strange bird-like creatures flew overhead. They set up a small shelter near the ship Raka, worked in silence while Leo gathered wood and made a fire. At night they sat near the flames. Neither speaking for a while, Leo broke the silence. I thought you would leave me in the cell during all this. You helped repair the ship, she replied. You showed skill, and I know you did not lie. Leo nodded. Guess I'm full of surprises. Raka looked into the fire, her helmet resting beside her. For the first time, her face was visible to Leo. Her skin was pale gray, and her eyes were dark blue with a calm, watchful look. You don't look like the monsters we see in our training vids, Leo said. And you don't act like them either. I do not kill unless necessary. I follow the code of the Kroll honor matters more than fear. Leo leaned back and looked at the stars. We used to believe all aliens were cruel. Maybe we were wrong, or maybe we were just scared. Raka stared at him for a moment, then looked away. Fear can shape belief, and belief can become a weapon. They sat in silence again. Later, a cold wind swept through the trees. Raka stood and handed Leo a blanket from her pack. He took it without. A word thanks, you are not weak, she said. That is why I cannot ignore you. Leo raised his eyebrows. That the nicest thing anyone said to me in weeks? Raka walked back into the shelter and lay down with her weapon nearby. Leo stayed by the fire, watching the flames rise and fall. He felt something strange, a sense of respect for the alien who had captured him. She was strong but not cruel, silent but not cold. He wondered what she really thought of him inside the shelter. Raka watched the firelight reflect in the glass of the door. She remembered how calm Leo had stayed in the engine room, how he had trusted her enough to fix the ship. Even now, when he had a chance to run, he had stayed. She didn't understand it, but she could not forget it. Outside, Leo wrapped the blanket around his shoulders. Maybe he wasn't just a prisoner anymore. Maybe this was something else. The jungle was quiet, but something between them had begun to speak louder than words. Morning came with soft blue light, covering the jungle. Bird-like creatures called again from high trees. The small fire near the crash site had turned to ashes. Leo stepped outside the shelter, stretching his arms and looking up at the clouds. The air smelled like wet grass and strange flowers. Behind him, Raka checked the ship's damage again. She had removed one of her shoulder plates to reach inside the control panel. Leo walked over slowly. How bad is it? The main power core is stable, but the fuel conduit is cracked, she said. We can patch it, but we need clean water to cool the system before restart. Leo nodded. There's a stream not far from here. I heard it last night. I'll go check. I will come with you, Raka said. We don't know. What else is out there? She grabbed her weapon and followed Leo through the tall grass. They walked in silence. The jungle was thick, with glowing insects floating in the air and thick vines hanging from the trees. The sound of water grew louder. Soon they reached a clear stream running over smooth stones. Leo knelt and touched the water, cold and clean. Perfect. Raka scanned the area. No signs of predators. We will collect water and return quickly. They filled 2 containers and turned back. But just before they reached the clearing, the ground shook. A loud roar echoed through the trees. From the shadows came a large animal, something like a mix between a bear and a reptile. Its skin was dark green and its mouth wide with sharp teeth. It saw them and charged. Raka stepped in front of Leo and raised her blaster. She fired twice, hitting the beast's shoulder. It roared again and struck her with its claw. She flew backward and hit a tree. Hard. Leo dropped the water and picked up a sharp stick. He stood over Raka. Heart pounding. The beast came closer. Leo shouted and stabbed the stick into its eye. The beast howled and turned away. running back into the jungle. Leo dropped the stick and turned to Raka. She was hurt. Blood ran down her arm, and part of her armor was cracked. "You okay?" he asked, kneeling beside her. She nodded weakly. The creature struck fast. "I failed to detect it." "Forget that," Leo said. "Let's get you back." He helped her up, wrapping her arm over his shoulder. They moved slowly back to the ship. Inside, Leo guided her to the bench and grabbed the med kit. She sat silently as he cleaned the wound and applied a healing patch. "You saved me," she said. Leo looked up. "You saved me first. Remember." Raka looked at him without her usual armor. Her face was calm but softer now. The silence between them was no longer cold, it was peaceful. That evening, they stayed inside the shelter. The ship's power was working at low level. Lights glowed soft, blue inside. Leo sat by the wall watching the tools Raka had used to fix the panel. He looked over at her. "Can I ask you something?" "Go ahead." "Do you really believe all humans are a threat?" Raka thought for a moment. "No, but the Empire does. The Kroll teach us that humans are wild and dangerous, unpredictable. But I have learned something different." Leo leaned forward. "What did you learn?" "That humans have strength in ways we do not understand. You fight even when losing. You protect others even when afraid. That is not weakness." Leo gave a small smile. "You sound like someone who's starting to like us." "I respect you," she said. "That is enough for now." They stayed quiet for a while outside. The wind moved the tall grass gently. Inside, the warmth of the small heater kept the cold away. Leo stood and walked to the control panel. "I think I can help you with the fuel lines tomorrow." "I watched how you sealed the last one." Raka watched. "Him for a moment if you try to escape. I will stop you." "I know," Leo said. "But I won't. I'm not ready to leave, and you're not ready to lose me." She didn't reply. But she didn't look away either. The next day, they worked together. Raka showed him how to reconnect the wires and patch the conduit. Leo listened carefully, asking questions and learning quickly by evening. The ship's engine hummed again. Not full power, but enough to lift off when ready. They sat outside again as the sun set behind the trees. Raka leaned against a rock. Her weapon beside her, Leo sat near the fire, hands warmed by the heat. "You ever think about Earth?" he asked. "I have never been there, but I have seen images, waterfalls, mountains, music festivals, people dancing under lights." Leo smiled. "It's not always peaceful, but sometimes it's beautiful. You should see it one day." Raka looked at the sky. "Maybe I will. But I am still a bounty hunter. My mission remains." Leo met her eyes. "Even after all this?" Raka paused. "I do not know. The code tells me one thing, but my mind sees something new." He nodded. "I guess we're both stuck between two worlds." She nodded slowly. "Not enemies, not allies, something else." They sat in silence again, but now the silence felt like a bridge. Not a wall. Close quarters had done something to them. They had fought side by side, saved each other's lives, shared pain and peace. The bond was no longer forced. It was real. And it was growing as the fire burned low and stars filled the sky. Leo looked over at her. "So what happens now?" "We survive," she said. "And we decide together. Tomorrow the stars would call them forward again. But tonight, they stayed where they were, side by side, in a broken ship, on a forgotten moon, and for the first time since the chase began, neither one felt alone. 3 more days passed on the jungle moon. The ship was mostly repaired. The engine worked again, and the outer panels were sealed. The comms were still damaged, but emergency signals could now be sent. Raka tested the system again and watched the small screen blink green. She had sent a message to her superior 2 days ago. Now the reply came. A voice spoke clearly through the speaker. "Target confirmed as alive. Return with human subject, immediately use force if required. Her hand rested on the panel for a moment. Then she turned it off. She looked across the room at Leo, who was busy checking one of the fuel tubes. He wiped sweat from his forehead and stood up. "That should hold now," he said. Raka nodded but said nothing. Leo noticed her expression. Something wrong. "The command just came," she said. "They want you delivered, Leo." "Look down, so that's it then. You're taking me in." Raka didn't answer right away. She walked to the window and stared at the trees outside. "When I captured you, the mission was clear." Now it is not. Leo stood beside her. "You could say I escaped. Tell them I died during the crash. They will scan the ship for your DNA. They will know you lived, then lie to them. You think I can lie to the Kroll Empire and walk free?" "No," he said, "but you could walk away from it." Raka turned to face him. "I was raised in the Kroll military. My whole life is built on rules, structure, and duty. And yet, in the last week, I have shared food with a human, fought beside him, trusted him." Leo stepped. "Back if you turn me in." "I understand. Just know I never saw you as the enemy." He walked toward the back of the ship. Raka stood still. Her hand tightened into a fist. She followed him a few minutes later. He was packing a small bag with the few supplies they had. "You are not a prisoner anymore," she said. "Not here." Leo looked at her. "Then what am I?" "You are a man who made me question everything. You showed me something outside the Empire. You showed me choice. So what's your choice now?" The ship beeped. A Kroll patrol ship had entered the system. They had traced her signal. "They will be here in minutes," Raka said. She walked quickly to the storage panel and opened a hidden compartment. "Get inside." Leo stared at the space. It was small and dark. "What are you doing?" "I'm hiding you. The Kroll will search the ship if they find you." "We are both finished. But if they think you died here, they will leave. And you, I will lie." Just this once, Leo stepped into the compartment without another word. Raka sealed it and turned back to the main room. She activated a program that masked life signs. In the rear section, the Kroll patrol ship landed outside and 2 officers entered. They were tall, wearing red armor with the Empire's symbol on their chest. They scanned the room. One of them looked at Raka's status. "Target is dead. He tried to escape and was injured during the landing. I buried the body near the south ridge." The officer narrowed his eyes. "Show me." Raka led him outside and pointed toward a small pile of stones. It looked natural, but carefully built. The officer scanned the ground. No signal. No life signs. Raka stayed silent. After a moment, the officer lowered his scanner. "Very well. Return to base after full system check." They turned and left the ship. Raka watched from the door as their vessel rose into the sky. When the Kroll ship disappeared, she returned to the storage panel. She opened it. Leo climbed out, rubbing his arms. "That was tight. You did not complain. I trusted you." Raka looked at him. Something in her face had changed. She was not the same soldier anymore. "You could still turn me in later," Leo said. She shook her head. "No, I broke the code today. There is no turning back." "What now?" "Now we run together." Leo gave a slow nod. "All right, let's disappear." Raka sat in the pilot seat and entered new coordinates, a quiet system far outside Kroll Control A place, where no one would look for them. Leo sat beside her, watching the stars on the screen. "You ever think about starting over?" She didn't answer right away. Then she looked at him and said, "With you, maybe I can." The ship lifted off the jungle moon and rose into the stars. Raka looked ahead. Leo looked beside her. The bounty hunter and the hunted were no longer enemies, not friends either. Something more, something different, something dangerous to the Empire, but maybe something worth fighting for. The stars outside moved fast as the ship flew through deep space. Raka sat in the pilot seat with her eyes on the screen. Leo sat beside her, his arms crossed and his thoughts deep. They had left the jungle moon 3 days ago. They were heading toward a neutral zone called Gray Reach, a small system where no empire had full control. Fuel was low and supplies were tight. But they both knew this was the only way forward. Raka checked the navigation system. We will reach Gray Reach in 2 days, if no one intercepts us. Leo nodded. What happens if someone does? Then we fight or we run. Leo leaned back. Running seems smarter. Raka gave a short nod. This time, I agree. They didn't talk much after that. The silence was calm, not heavy. They had grown used to each other's presence. That night, Leo sat in the back of the ship, looking through the small window. He held a metal tag in his hand. It had belonged to his brother. He rubbed it between his fingers. Thinking about home, Raka walked in quietly. You are thinking about Earth. Yeah. I wonder what it looks like now. How many things have changed? She sat across from him. Would you go back? Maybe one day. But I don't belong there now. Not yet. And you? Do you miss your home? I was trained to forget comfort, to forget home. Now I find myself remembering it more. Leo smiled. Funny how things change. You spend your life chasing someone. Then one day you stop and realize you don't want to catch them anymore. Raka tilted her head. You are the first target I ever let go. I know, and I'm the first Kroll you've ever trusted. She gave a small nod. The moment broke when the ship alarm beeped. Incoming. Signal detected. Raka stood fast and moved to the control room. Leo followed. What is it, a bounty ship? They are tracking us. How did they find us? They must have scanned our warp trail. The screen showed a red dot closing in. We have 10 minutes before they reach us. We can't outrun them, Leo said. Then we fight. Leo opened the weapons panel. He looked at the blasters, the shields, the controls. I've never done this before. Raka looked at him, then learned fast. This is not a test. Leo nodded. He placed his hands on the side cannon controls and locked the system. The bounty ship came into view. It was larger than theirs and had 2 main guns already charging. They fired first. A blue beam hit the side of Raka's ship. Shaking it hard, shields dropped to 70%. Raka spun the ship and returned fire. Leo aimed and pressed the trigger. One of the beams hit the enemy's lower wing. Nice shot. Raka said, I told you I learned fast. They kept moving, dodging, firing. The enemy ship circled around and fired again. This time, the engine took a hit. Smoke-filled part of the room. We have to do something quick. Leo shouted. Raka looked at the screen. We take them out or we die. That's the choice. Then let's take them out. Raka turned the ship sharply. Leo held the trigger and fired both side cannons at the same time. The enemy ship's front shield burst. Raka launched a small missile into the exposed area. The explosion lit up the dark sky. The enemy ship spun out of control and vanished into a cloud of debris. Leo fell back in his seat, breathing hard. We did it. Raka nodded. Yes, you did well. He looked at her. So did you. They looked at each other for a long moment. Then Raka stood and checked the ship damage. Main engine is hit, but still active. We need to land soon and repair. There's a fuel station near the edge of Gray Reach, Leo said. We used it once during a scout mission. Coordinates, Raka asked. Leo entered them into the system. Raka looked at him as the ship turned toward the new course. You saved me today. That makes 2 times now. Guess we're even. Or maybe not. She turned away, but her face stayed softer than before. They reached the fuel station 12 hours later. It was an old structure floating above a dusty moon. No flags, no emblems. Just a place where broken ships stopped to breathe. Inside, the air was dry and the lights flickered. Raka and Leo moved carefully through the halls. They found the fuel tech and paid with spare metal parts. The tech didn't ask questions. Most people in Gray Reach didn't care who you were, but someone had noticed them. A shadowy figure moved through the station's dark corner. It sent a silent message to the Kroll. The human and the bounty hunter are here. Back on the ship, Leo checked the systems while Raka watched the entrance. You think they'll follow us here? If they do, we leave fast. They are not expecting a fight in this place, but they might not come to fight. They might come to take you without warning. Leo looked at her, then stay close. Always. That night they rested in shifts. Leo slept first while Raka kept watch. Then, they switched in the quiet hours. She sat near him and listened to his breathing. She looked at his face and remembered every moment they had shared since the jungle moon. She had captured him as an enemy. Now she would protect him as something more. Not a prisoner, not a target. Something else she still didn't fully understand when morning came. Leo stood beside her at the ship window. Do you think we'll ever stop running? Maybe. Maybe not. But we're running together now. He smiled. That's all I need. The ship lifted off again. Below them, the fuel station faded into shadow. Ahead, new stars waited, and whatever came next, they would face it side by side. The ship moved silently through the dark space between stars. Raka sat at the controls, her face calm but focused. Leo stood near the window, watching distant planets glow. They were close to the edge of Kroll's space, now a place where few dared to go. Their journey had been long and hard, but it was not over yet. Suddenly, a message came through on the ship's comm system. A voice spoke clearly. This is a Kroll officer. You are ordered to surrender your cargo and yourself immediately. Resistance will be met with force. Raka frowned and looked at Leo. They found us. Leo clenched his fists. What do we do, fight or surrender? Raka's eyes were sharp. We fight. Leo nodded. Together, the ship's alarm began to ring. Outside the window, bright lights appeared. A Kroll warship was closing fast. Raka took the pilot seat and pushed the ship forward. The enemy fired first blaster shots, hit the shields. The ship shook, but held. Leo moved to the weapons station. He was ready. Raka glanced at him. Stay, calm. Leo smiled. You taught me. The battle began. Shots flew through space. Raka flew skillfully, dodging and weaving. Leo fired back, hitting enemy engines, but the Kroll ship was strong. It came closer. Raka's ship was hit. Smoke filled the cockpit. Raka coughed, but kept flying. Leo worked to fix the damaged systems. The enemy ship fired again. This time, the shield dropped. Raka prepared to counterattack. But suddenly, the door to the cockpit opened. A Kroll soldier stepped inside. Raka was surprised but ready. The soldier aimed a weapon at Leo. Raka moved fast. She grabbed the soldier and pushed him out. The door closed. Leo breathed deeply. That was close. Raka looked at Leo. We cannot keep running. We have to make a choice. Leo nodded. What choice? To fight and risk everything, or to surrender and lose freedom? Raka looked out the window. Freedom is more important than fear. Then we fight. The enemy ship fired again. Raka pushed the controls. The ship moved quickly toward a nearby asteroid field. They hoped to hide among the rocks. The Kroll ship followed. The battle continued between the stones and dust. Raka used every skill. She had learned. Leo fired when he had a chance. Suddenly, the enemy ship's engine was hit. It slowed down. Raka smiled. Now is our chance. She turned the ship and fired a missile. The missile struck the Kroll ship's weapon system. The enemy ship lost power and drifted away. The danger was over. Raka and Leo breathed easier. They looked at each other with new respect. This fight was not just about survival. It was about choosing who they wanted to be. Later, they landed on a quiet moon to repair the ship as Leo fixed the engine. Raka prepared food. They talked quietly. Leo asked, "Do you regret leaving your mission?" Raka thought for a moment. "No, I found something more valuable. Friendship. Trust. Maybe even hope." Leo smiled. "I never thought a Kroll would say that." Raka laughed softly. "And I never thought a human would fight so well beside me." They sat together under the stars, two beings from different worlds. But now they were more than hunter and prey. They were partners. They were friends. They were something new. The ship glided silently through the quiet asteroid field. Raka and Leo watched as rocks passed by slowly in the soft light. They had left the Kroll patrol far behind. Their enemies believed both of them dead. Inside the ship, the air was calm but full. Of hope, Raka removed her Kroll badge and held it in her hands. She looked at it carefully. Then she crushed it slowly under her foot. This was the end of her old life. Leo smiled at her quietly. "You sure about that?" She nodded. "I am done being a soldier for a war I do not believe in now. I want to build something new." Leo walked over and placed a hand on her shoulder. Together, they found a small green moon nearby, a place no empire controlled. The surface was covered in forests and small rivers. They landed gently in a clearing surrounded by tall trees. The air was fresh and smelled like rain. Leo stepped outside first. He looked up at the bright blue sky and took a deep breath. This could be our new home. Raka followed. Carrying some supplies, she looked around carefully but saw no danger. They set up a small shelter near the landing site. Leo worked on a fire while Raka arranged their few belongings. At night, they sat by the fire and shared stories. Leo told her about Earth, the cities he had seen, the music festivals full of light and sound, the mountains where he used to hike as a child. Raka listened, fascinated. She told him about Kroll traditions, the long training, the rules she had lived by, but now those rules felt distant. Leo looked at her and smiled. Home is not just a place, it is a feeling, a person. Someone who stands beside you when the stars are dark. Raka nodded slowly. "I never believed that before. But now I understand." They sat close by the fire, the warm glow lighting their faces. Neither was a prisoner. Neither was a hunter. They were friends. Maybe more. The days passed gently on the green moon. They explored the forests, found fresh water streams, and learned to live with the quiet rhythm of the land. Sometimes, Leo played music on a small device he had kept. The notes floated softly through the trees. Raka would listen and smile. One evening, Leo asked, "Do you think the Kroll will come looking for us?" She looked up at the stars. "Maybe. But we are far away now, and we have each other. That is enough." Leo reached out and took her hand. She looked at him, her dark blue eyes shining. Together, they watched the sky grow bright with the coming dawn. Their journey had begun with capture and fear, but it ended with trust. And hope. Home was not a place on any map. It was here with each other under endless stars.